Check. 1 2 1 2.
Live across the universe.
Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's about that time, y'all.
you are now in the mix. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give it up for
ATL, stand up. You're locked in with the livest, realest, rawest talk in the game. This is the Broncos podcast ATL, where the culture talks back, the vibes stay heavy, and the code always respected. Don't touch that dial. Keep it right here, because we breaking the code live from the A.
Welcome to the Bro Code Podcast. Join Kennedy Lucas, Terry Lester, and Jackson Smith as they break down the biggest plays, share locker room banter, and keep it 100 on sports hot takes. Gear up, because this is where the real talk begins. Cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up. Cause this is where the real talk begins.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, on behalf of Bro Code Podcast ATL, welcome back to the podcast. Officially back here, ladies and gentlemen. Broncos, East Forsyth Broncos. Game tonight. We're going to show you guys some clips and all the things we've got going on, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Bro Code Podcast. I do want to say to a lot of people, sorry I missed last week's game. We had a game with East Forsyth Broncos. If you guys been following our social medias, you guys know I had a minor cold last week, so I couldn't be able to be here and to help broadcast and to talk more about the game like I wanted to last week. I've been terribly sick. I say to a lot of people, have your emergency immune system boosted. The weather is changing. We're getting ready for that wonderful fall season. So I do say, hey, get your immune system boosted. Get everything boosted that you need, because once you get a cold, it will stop you. But I am here Thursday night. That's the thing with high school football, ladies and gentlemen. You don't know what's going to happen when it comes down to these game schedule. It is a Thursday night football. Very, very excited for that as well. We've got Tyler and Marcus. They are here, and they're going to give their piece and their take on the game as well tonight. And I look forward to seeing what these East Forsyth Broncos bring out to the table. Of course, I'll show you guys some clips and some reels for our podcast and to see their status and their record for today. It's going to be very, very impactful for today's game. Weather is looking stable, knock on wood, partly cloudy, but we are going to have a football game tonight on Thursday night. So stay tuned. Bro Code Podcast ATL, presented by Our Heart Media. Stay tuned.
That was going to be a first down. If he goes left to right of his blocker, he's got plenty of yardage to get the first down.
I thought so too. It'd be the kick returner. You know he's got that speed. First down and 10 now here at the 21-yard line. East Forsyth Sterling back to Scarce. He'll hand it off to Harper. Harper right side. Harper inside the 30-yard line.
Harper on the carry. Gain of 12 on the play. Down to the 29-yard line. Tackle by Promato.
Running back gets the fumble and the recovery, and then breaks a 13-yarder as Kellen Moran again makes the tackle, but way downfield. Falcon first down.
Nearing the midway point here in the second quarter. Wide receivers to the left, on the right. Sterling from the gun. Hand it off to Harper again. Harper inside the 25. Oh! The 20 makes a cut.
Harper on the carry. Touchdown, Flower Branch.
To make it 16-10. And just like that, lightning strikes.
There's about half the quarter left.
They need to do differently here to get this offense going.
I I don't know. Rhodes, has some pretty good numbers coming in the game throwing the football, but he's not yet found his rhythm, whether it's Flowery Branch's pressure or whatever. But need to run some good routes and give him time to throw the football.
Smallwood is met at the line, but gains 2 on the play.
Garrison linebackers hit the hole in a hurry and make contact.
Taken down by Garrison.
Smallwood drug him for a yard or two, but Garrison touchdown ultimately got it.
Second and 8 from their own 30-yard line. Rhodes will be towards the sideline. Receiver to come down that way. But he wound up he's that long tight end. Smallwood to his left. Wide receiver to the foot. Smallwood that way. This time Rhodes going to take off. Rhodes going in between the tackles.
Rhodes on the keeper. Gain of 3 on the play. Move the ball out to the 33-yard line. Bring up a 3rd and 5.
That's 2 or 3 times tonight that needs to carry the football. Nick Hall.
Taken down by Hall.
Made the tackle. That was what, 2 or 3 yard game?
Yeah, set up 3rd down at 6 here at the 33-yard line. Having to get it to the 38. Okay. Rhodes going to line up here in the shotgun as they often do. Remain in motion. That's Norman. Tight end. His position there on the right side of the formation. Ooh. Going to look that way. Rhodes fires.
Rhodes pass to Lamb, complete. Move out to the 35-yard line. That gain is good enough for an ending Chevrolet.
The pass was perfectly thrown.
Tackled by Morris.
3rd down. He's still in Falcons territory for the first time tonight.
The 45-yard line, Fire Branch. Quick snap, quick throw. Catch made by Norman.
Rhodes pass to Norman, complete. Gain of 8 on the play. Bring up a 2nd and 2. New line of scrimmage is the 37-yard line of the Falcons.
Rhodes stood up and hit him wide open. Big target.
Taken down by Hall.
That's a big gain on 1st down.
On this drive. Effective here so far.
You see what
Second and 2. 37-yard line.
Not sure.
Running back is Smallwood. Take a snap straight ahead.
Norman on the keeper. Gain of 1 on the play. Bring up a 3rd and 1. Tackled by Nick Hall.
Great snap, trick play. I thought he was Rhodes. It was Norman. Nice tackle by Nick Hall. Right off the 1st down.
Yeah. Situation like this on 31.
And then he throw a foot.
Still Jackson.
Jackson Norman at the quarterback position. The snap. Going to get the first down anymore as he trips it out.
Norman on the carry. Gain of 6 on the play. New line of scrimmage is the Falcon 30-yard line. That line is good enough for an ending Chevrolet. First down, Broncos.
I can't help it. The last couple of plays, I want to come again. Small up in the middle. And Small is down to 24.
Smallwood on the carry. Gain of 4 on the play. Line of scrimmage to the 26-yard line.
Really moving some bodies up front. Eli Poole had to make that tackle, but it was 5 yards downfield.
Feels like a big drive for East Forsyth. Less than 2 minutes to play here until the half. Trailing 17-0, but like you said, you get a touchdown here, you get the ball start the second half. Quickly change this game around.
Yeah, a touchdown here would be huge for the Broncos.
Broncos going to hand it off to Smallwood. And Smallwood up the middle, and Smallwood will be taken out to the 24-yard line.
Smallwood on the carry. Gain of 3 on the play.
Rush Smallwood is a tough guy to bring down. I mean, it takes 2 or 3 guys. It's not
Bring up a 3rd and 3. Timeout, East Forsyth.
We'll take a timeout. See, that was a 28-yard run by Harper, right? I saw 20 on the
But what yard line did they get the fumble recovery? Because his first game was 13 yards, or whatever was left after that. At the 32, so it was a 19-yard run.
Run to the bathroom, catch your breath on the way back.
Good leg workout. Ball will be snapped with less than 4 minutes to play in the game.
31-12. His performance here. Flyers ranch here on the road on a Thursday night. Right to the shotgun here, Stearns. Back his hands, pick the hand off. Flip it out far side to Robinson. Robinson spins out.
Stearns pass to Robinson, complete.
Falcons threw the ball, caught Easter Site off guard there, and Robinson trying to break the first tackle, fumbled the ball back.
Ball went out of bounds on about the 47-yard line, knocked out by Tomato.
A couple yards on the play.
Bring up a 3rd and 13.
Wide receiver for Fly Ranch with the ball and turf. Great Shields did some nice things.
So they haven't been hurt by either one.
It does hurt, and it does stop the clock at 3:54 to play. They're still huddle up.
3rd down and 5 seconds.
On the play clock. Against him. He's recycling. They back out of it. They're going to go to the air. Lost it down the left side. It's incomplete. He's on the back end of it.
Sure did.
Stearns pass falls incomplete. Defended by Aguilera.
You throw the ball up to him, but started a little too much on that one. Shields didn't have a chance to go up high to get it, so Flowery Branch going to have to punt.
Pressure right up the middle, back out of it. Pressure from the left side. Like I said, Fire Branch going to have to punt it away. Stranger things have happened.
I imagine they'll try to block this.
And Ressinelli barely gets it on. Ball down to the 25-yard line. Scooped up by Colt. He's going to be met at the 15-yard line. His own 15.
Punt picked up by Falk at the 15-yard line. Broncos are
Hey yo, ATL, stand up. You're locked in with the livest, realest, rawest talk in the game. This is the Bro Code Podcast ATL, where the culture talks back, the vibes stay heavy, and the code always respected. Don't touch that dial. Keep it right here, because we breaking the code live from the A.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. We got the producers and everybody in the audience giving us the applause here today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Bro Code Podcast ATL, presented by our Herd Media. We are so glad. I'm really happy to be back here on the stage here at K.L.P Studios to give you guys yet another exciting Bro Code podcast. I know it's been a minute since we loaded up the studio and the lights and the cameras, the glitz and glamours from last week, simply because last week there's no secret that I've been out of commission for the week because I have been terribly, and I do mean this, terribly sick. So I apologize to our fan base, our sports fans of K.L.P Entertainment. You guys love it when we do our sports content and what have you. I apologize for that. It's just one of those things that it happens. That cold, let me tell you, that cold happens, y'all. But I do appreciate it, and I know I said this on the K.L.P Aftermath podcast this week so far on the last episode that we uploaded. I do thank Tyler, Marcus, Terry, Jackson, Coleman, Monica, and Simone, as well as part of them being part of the writers for Broco podcast. Thank y'all so very much for holding down the fort. I know it's never ideal to have one of your co-workers, I don't want to say boss, right? Because I don't really like to, even though I'm the owner of this whole organization, I don't really like to use the word boss when it comes down to everybody here in the studio, because you guys make all of this happen. And I'm very, very thankful for y'all for making this thing happen, and for you guys holding down the fort last week when I was out due to a cold. I will say this, and we'll get to the sports of the show. We'll get to everything, but I do say to a lot of people, be careful out there. Stay sanitized. Wash your hands. Stay away from germs and bacteria. If you're in a space, have a thing of hand sanitizer with you. I do say to a lot of people, if you, because I'm a gym rat. Right, that's one of the things that I am. I'm a gym rat, so if you guys do go to the gym, I do encourage people to wash your hands and have a thing of hand sanitizer when you go out running a machine at the gym or doing what you need to do at the gym, because I honestly do think my cold came from something in the gym, and I'm not blaming the whole thing on the gym. It's just somebody who came to the gym working out was sick, and it spread it around. And believe it or not, I watch a lot of other sports shows and a lot of other podcasts, and a lot of other people are getting sick. It could have been that, or it could have been that we are in September getting ready for October, believe it or not, because this is the 26th. Right? September is moving like it got somewhere to be, because we're getting ready to hit October. So I do say that just to say, everybody out there that's watching and listening to the show, please do be careful, stay sanitized, because this is the busiest time that we've been. K.L.P Entertainment, Filmworks, this is the busiest that we are going to be in September, October, and even November. So I say to a lot of people, don't get sick, because we got a lot of things to do. So let's get to it. You clicked on this episode. You're watching the Broco Podcast ATL. This is the official sports show for K.L.P Entertainment Filmworks here in Atlanta. And shout out to I Heard Media for always being a great partner for us when it comes down to our show. Let's get down to the nitty and gritty. Of course, I've got my segments, of course, and I'm gonna get ready to have Tyler and Marcus talk about part of their segment. This is the first segment of the show. We're talking about football. Football season is here, not only for NFL, we'll get to that later on into this episode, but high school football is where it's at. I'm always going to say it on each segment that I do here. High school football is something that is going to be very, very impactful for a lot of people. I think there's a lot of attention on high school football. Now, if you guys know, our show, K.L.P Entertainment, we're based here in Atlanta, Georgia, right? So we do cater to the Georgia games. Here, I know there's high school football games that's going around the world, around the nation. But since we are here in Atlanta, we cater to Georgia schools, and I was able to finally get back to doing high school football with East Forsyth Broncos versus the Flowery Branch Falcons. Very, very exciting when it comes down to that as well, because I know last week I couldn't even come to the studio to do the show, but I couldn't even go to a football game last week because I was so sick. I had a cold. I couldn't go anywhere. But it felt good to be back. I saw some of the people there that they missed me. They asked me where I've been, and some people understood that I was tremendously sick when it comes down to it. So let's talk about it. You guys saw glimpses and clips at the beginning of the show, and Tyler and Marcus are going to get ready to talk about their take as well. We were there in the stadium at the High Mile Stadium in Forsyth County. Of course, it was me, Tyler, and Marcus. We were broadcasting the game, but also we were there to watch and observe, take notes, so that way we can talk about it on today's episode. I do got to say that I'm very excited that I'm very, very excited when it comes down to games being Thursday. I know today is Friday, and typically we go to games Friday night, would have been tonight, but they pushed it a day before it being, instead of Friday, they pushed it to Thursday. So we saw the game of East Forsyth Broncos versus the Flowery Branch Falcons. Now, I do believe that last week East Forsyth Broncos went against North Oconee. I do believe that they lost that matchup last week. So I was very, very anticipated to see this game as well. Flowery Branch, let me tell you, Flowery Branch, that's going to be a tongue twister, y'all. That is a great school too for athletics when it comes down to football, because let me tell you why. It's a difference between, and I'm always going to say this, a butt kicking or a straight up close match. And I'm sad to say this, but this was semi a straight up butt kicking for East Forsyth Broncos. I got to say it, because I don't think that, I do believe in, their having their titles, and I do believe in them being a good team when it comes down to it. But it just wasn't a great matchup when it came down to East Forsyth Broncos. Of course, there's a lot of moves that a lot of the young kids of Flowery Branch Falcons. I was nervous because their mascot and their team name is the Falcons. If you guys know, I am a huge critic of the Atlanta Falcons. That's where they get their name from. They even used I guess they got permission for the Falcons Association, Atlanta Falcons Association, where they could use the old Atlanta Falcons logo for their helmets, for their jerseys, for their full football gear. And let me tell you something. This is why it's very, very exciting for these high school football games, because let me tell you, some high schools have a big budget. Let me tell you, Flowery Branch, up there north of Atlanta, they've got the budget, right? Because when I was there, I pulled up, the team was there, they had 3 buses from them. They also had it to where they had the marching band. The marching band for Flowery Branch they had a truck driver, a semi-truck driver, and a full trailer for all of their equipment. Now, I've been to high school, obviously, and I know there's been a lot of things when it comes down to high school to where, you're putting your band equipment on like a little smaller trailer and it's been pulled by F-150 truck. But I saw it. Somebody's driving a big semi truck and they have a trailer with the Flowery Branch Falcons branding on it. You've got big money. Let me tell you, it costs a lot of money to have a truck, whether it's from a trucking company or owning a truck trailer and an actual semi truck. That costs money. So very, very cool to see that. I've never seen that in all my days of watching high school football, but that's pretty dope. 4 buses, of course, 1 bus for the players. The other 3 buses were for the band. You'll see a glimpse of it at the beginning of this episode. If you're watching the video version, of course, we were able to get some glimpse of the halftime performance when it comes down to the Flowery Branch Falcons marching band. Pretty good. I like the storytelling that they did for that. I'm always going to root for marching bands because a little tidbit, guys. I used to be in a band, right? Well, I'm in a band now, Swanky Orr. That's our band. But I used to be in an orchestra band in middle school. I played the saxophone, so I have some keen to fame on that one. There was a lot of interceptions. There was a lot of pass-throughs from East Forsyth Broncos that didn't go well, right? There was a lot of miscommunication between the refs. I was in the press box. A lot of referees, they were arguing with one of the coaches on Flowery Branch Falcons side. It's quite funny because it's like to see them, and it's North Georgia, so it's a little country, right? And you see a lot of the accent. It's just kind of funny to hear how that transpires a little bit. But when it comes down to it, Flowery Branch Falcons, despite their name being the Falcons, because again, I'm a huge critic for Atlanta Falcons. I think they're not going to have a great season. Sorry, family members. I have a big brother, Alex. Shout out to you. Know you're a fan of the Falcons. They're just not going to have a good season. I think Raheem Morris is getting ready to be fired. If you're just thinking me. I know that's a hot take for a lot of people. But, So I was nervous for Flowery Branch Falcons because of that stereotype. But they played really, really well. Again, and let me tell you, in all my days, I've seen it to where I've seen high school football players back in my day. There's some players that I know that I'm friends with. They weren't as big of a football player back then. But boy, howdy, let me tell you something. When it comes down to the whole high school football spectrum, T and Jackson and audience, these boys are big. These high school football players are buff. And that's what I've seen for the Flowery Branch Falcons. These guys are big. right? And not in a weird way because they're high schoolers, right? That's not what I mean. They're bulky, big boys. There's a lot of tackles going on that made me cringe a little bit. Like, ooh, that looked like that hurt. I felt the pain, right? I'm glad I never played football because I'm too squeamish for that, right? To get tackled down like a wrestling move, because that's what we saw in last night's game. It was a lot of tackles from the Flowery Branch Falcons on the East Forsyth Broncos that just wasn't. It looked like it hurt. It looked very, 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 very excruciating. So when it comes down to it, of course, it was and let me tell you, Falcons, Flowery Branch Falcons. There's a term in football where you want to fill in the hole, right? You're in the huddle, you're in the actual play, and then you want to go through the hole to make your touchdown, right? That's the key in football. I think East Forsyth Broncos, I think they just didn't have tight enough plays last night, is what I think. I think there was a lot of miscommunication between coaches down to players because there was a lot of things that shouldn't happen, but happened when it comes down to the Broncos, right? There was a lot of plays that just didn't seem right based off what I've seen. There was a lot of miscommunication. There was a lot of interceptions where the quarterback throws the ball to somebody, to a receiver, and the Falcons going to catch it and switch the ball around, and now it's Falcons ball, right? So it's just one of those things that a lot of that has happened. There was a lot of miscommunication. There was a lot of upsets. It was a lot of sad moments when it comes down to it. And when it came down to the score, Tyler and Marcus and audience, we had it to where the Falcons were going 20 plus points, and East Broncos at first had no points. But obviously, East Forsyth Broncos, they gave up a good fight. The end game, I believe it was 39-19. So it was a sad day last night for the East Forsyth Broncos. But when it comes down to it, it's just one of those things that it does happen. But Tyler and Marcus, they got their piece on what they observed from last night's game against East Forsyth Broncos and Flowery Branch Falcons. Guys?
Welcome, everyone, to the Sideline Report. I'm Marcus Thompson, joined by Tyler Brooks. For our loyal newsletter subscribers, this podcast expands on those insights, bringing intimate football discussion directly to your ears.
That's right, Marcus. We're amplifying that community feel, that direct connection. New listeners, think of us as your press box coaches, giving real talk beyond stats. We've got a game buzzing, especially after our latest dispatch.
Indeed. We're diving deep into a high school matchup where East Forsyth Broncos faced a tough loss. It's about what these games mean for teams, their seasons, and passionate communities.
We'll get into the nitty-gritty, plays, and standout performances. We'll expand on newsletter points, giving context for all. Every game tells a story. Let's unpack this one. All right, Marcus, main event. East Forsyth Broncos against Flowery Branch Falcons. Newsletter highlighted as significant. Final score, Flowery Branch 38, East Forsyth 19. Tough pill for the Broncos, their third straight loss.
A decisive win for Flowery Branch. Tyler, the narrative is key. Falcons remembered last September's defeat. This was a revenge match, executed perfectly.
Absolutely, Marcus. You felt that energy. Flowery Branch played with unmatched intensity. Their offensive line was relentless, opening huge lanes. East Forsyth's defense struggled with physicality, a step behind on crucial third downs.
Flowery Branch capitalized, converting key plays, building their lead. East Forsyth showed flashes, especially passing, but couldn't string consistent drives. Overcoming Falcons' ground attack was too much. This pattern is a concern. East Forsyth's loss drops them to 3-3, their third straight defeat. Tyler, what factors contribute to this tough stretch, and how do they turn the tide?
Marcus, 3 straight losses mess with psyche. Consistency is key, not talent. Putting a complete game together is tough. Maybe injuries or confidence dip. Offensive execution, especially red zone, needs shoring up.
Exactly. They can rally. Next game, road against Cedar Shoals, October 3rd, 7:30 p.m. Critical. To salvage their season and playoff hopes, they must snap this streak. Character-defining moment for the Broncos.
Now, let's flip to Flowery Branch Falcons. What a season, Marcus! This victory marks their 5th win in a row, 5-1 record. That's the momentum every coach dreams of.
They certainly are, Tyler. 5 consecutive wins is no small feat. This streak suggests a well-oiled machine. Meticulous preparation, high-level execution, they found their rhythm, building on strengths, minimizing weaknesses.
No doubt. Their offense is balanced. Strong running game wears defenses, opening play action, QB makes smart decisions, receivers make tough catches. Defensively, disciplined, making tackles, creating turnovers. Confidence growing with every snap.
That cohesion is invaluable. Focus shifts to Madison County. Road game, October 10th, 7:30 p.m. Another chance to extend their streak and solidify standing. Exciting time for Falcons fans. We'll keep you updated. Beyond wins, Tyler, high school games are community heartbeats. Max Prep's newsletter captures that spirit. For parents, alumni, businesses, these games are pride, tradition, bringing people together on Friday or Thursday nights.
Couldn't agree more. For new listeners, that insider perspective is crucial. Kids grew up playing together, rivalries passed down, a tough loss resonates, a win streak is palpable. Priceless shared experience builds character.
It certainly is. It's about actionable insights, why certain information matters. For East Forsyth, resilience. For Flowery Branch, focus. These trends help us all appreciate the game deeper.
That's why we do this. It's a conversation, connecting dots, making implicit connections explicit. What does 3-3 mean for playoffs? 5-1 for championships? We explore these, offering extra commentary, our extended huddle. Marcus, another week of high school football complete. East Forsyth Broncos face a challenge in 3-3 period. Flowery Branch Falcons ride high at 5-1. Both are at pivotal points with crucial games ahead.
Absolutely, Tyler. East Forsyth's road game against Cedar Shoals on October 3rd is monumental. Flowery Branch visits Madison County on October 10th. We'll track both, bringing updates and analysis.
That concludes another Sideline Report episode. Thank you for tuning in. This podcast extends our community. Check Max Preps for full stats. Share thoughts, predictions, experiences with hashtag Sideline Report.
Your engagement makes this community thrive. If you enjoy it, subscribe, leave a review, and share. Loyal newsletter readers, watch your inbox for our next exclusive edition. Until next time, I'm Marcus Thompson.
And I'm Tyler Brooks, reminding you, keep that Friday night spirit alive. We'll catch y'all.
Thank y'all so very much. Tyler and Marcus, guys, you guys are going to catch them. I want to say almost every football, Friday night football, Thursday night football that we go there, Tyler and Marcus will also be there to give their own critiques on the show as well. Great show as well. So let's continue on with the news, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk next basketball. Very, very excited. And while we're on the topic of conversation of basketball, we're going to get ready to talk about the WNBA semifinals and the Final Four. We'll get ready to talk about that as well. But I did mention at the beginning of Broncos Podcast ATL that basketball season is wrapping up for professionals, but basketball season for high school and college is ramping up, and I'm very, very excited to talk about it because, you know, I've been seeing videos. Now, if you guys know, you know I am a fellow Grizzly. I did go to Georgia Gwinnett College in Lawrenceville. Shout out to them. And I'm very, very excited when it comes down to the men's and women's basketball. Now, on Wake Up ATL, I talked about the sights and sounds of basketball, and the anticipation is here, y'all. I can't wait to see what the men and women do for GGC basketball. If you guys know, GGC does have my heart. GGC has changed my life for the better when I started college. There's nothing like GGC. right? There's nothing like the athletic program. Now, I've devoted 5 years into the athletic program, down to in college years, down to my work study positions, down to still giving back to the community as a vendor. But I'm very, very excited to see the sights and sounds personally when it's game time for men's and women's basketball for GGC Athletics. It's very, 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 very impactful. I'm still gonna say, I'm saying it every show. I'm slick jealous that we didn't have basketball when I was in college, because basketball, in production wise, basketball is one of those favorite things that I like to do, because it's the environment is there. It's inside, so it doesn't matter if you're in a convocation center or an arena and it's going to be raining all night. The game doesn't get canceled. We still have a game despite the rain and weather delay that you've seen in high school football or college football games where they're in an open stadium. But I see a lot of the social media for men's and women's basketball for GGC. I do see a lot of the faces, a lot of the players. I don't know them personally, I don't. But I do see their practices because they post on social media. I do see some of the players and their stats from either high school. So I think this is going to be a great, great season. And I'm going to go on the rim here. Not a sponsor. If they want to sponsor us, they can, but not a sponsor. I'm still going to talk about them no matter what. But I do say, if you are in the Lawrenceville area and you want to see men's and women's basketball when it comes down to it, if you are a college student at GGC and you want to go to an event, you should go to all the athletic events because it's fun. But basketball, this is the inaugural basketball season that we're going to get ready to see, right? We're going to see the top teams in our division of GGC that they're going to compete against the Grizzlies, right? That's going to be very, very impactful to see how far that will be, right? And the inaugural time of it is going to be at the new, that beautiful convocation center. Guys, audience, I tell y'all, I've been there. I've seen the sights and sounds myself when they were building it. We did get a small little tour, right? And I'll be back starting next month, October, to help out with the production side, to give them some pointers and some tips. And of course, I will be also helping out with that broadcast when it comes down to the broadcast side of GGC's men's and women's basketball. Shout out to the new coaches. I'm very, very excited to see what the new coaches will do for both teams. The head coaches down to the assistant coaches, down to the staff of GGC Athletics. I look forward to seeing you guys yet again. Your old buddy Kennedy is coming back home when it comes down to it, but shout out to them. Oh, by the way, follow their social media, right? GGC BB and GGC WBB, those are the men's and women's basketball Instagram accounts. Follow them. Very, very exciting. So moving on, we're talking about basketball, and I am talking about the WNBA. Now we're turning from college down to professional. Let me tell you something. When the Phoenix Mercury clinched the spot in the WNBA semifinals on Friday, Satu Sabali and Alyssa Thompson combined for 43 points, 22 rebounds, and 4 assists. Now on Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, as the Las Vegas Aces end their season and series on the other side of the bracket, the starting forward, Nalisa Smith, tailed 18 points and 7 rebounds. Now, 7 months after the largest trade in WNBA history, of course, the ripple effects continue to influence the WNBA playoffs, ladies and gentlemen and audience. Now, the 4 teams traded included 13 players, 5 draft picks in February, and some of the players were subsequently been dealt with, of course, when it comes down to those teams and when it comes down to those players being dealt elsewhere in other teams. Now, there are about 5 that are on the roster in this week's semifinals, and despite the injuries, the way the first round played out assured at least one player, not 2, not 3, one player involved in February's trade will win the championships. Now, the Mercury will be at the center of this deal, of course, highlighting Sabali and Thomas, 2 all-star players landing via a sign and trade. Now, the Indiana Fever's key additional, Sophie Cunningham, averaged about 8.6 points, and her shooting average is 43% and threes over 30 games before suffering a season-ending injury back in August. Very, very sad for the Fevers, because sadly we learned, and there's no brainer that we've learned that Caitlin Thompson, Caitlin Clark will be out for the rest of the season for Indiana Fever. Very, very sad because she's one of my favorites, right? But she's not coming back until next season. Now, the other two teams in the deal was the Dallas Wings and the Connecticut Suns, of course, finished in the lottery. Still, the Wings managed to impact the semifinals by trading away the two key players that acquired. Now, Smith and guard Johnny Carrington, the top selected Minnesota Lynx, traded for Carrington in early August. Though she is out for the playoffs for the mid-foot sprain that she endured within her season, the Aces and the Lynx could end up meeting into the finals. Of course, very, very excited when it comes down to, finals week. When it comes down to WNBA, I've been watching a lot of A'ja Wilson. I'm very glad she won MVP of the year, right? I know a lot of people have their gripes about A'ja Wilson. I hear it. But I'm blown away because I think I might have predicted that, right? Because I do recall few episodes before a Broco Podcast ATL presented by our Heard Media that I said I wouldn't be surprised if A'ja Wilson won MVP for the year, and I wanted her to, right? But I think now that we know, she did. She's a good player. She's a very, very good player when it comes down to doing her style, and when it comes down to Las Vegas Aces. I'm blown away with her performance this year. I can't wait to see what happens next with the remaining of the year. The Mercury have had a long traded target of within the 2025 season as an opportunity to go start chasing in free agency with the retirement of future Hall of Famer Deanna Taurasi and Phoenix's decision to move on from long-term star Brittany Griner. Of course, Brittany Griner now plays for the Atlanta Dream. Very, very sad because the Atlanta Dream is no longer in the running. Well, haven't been in the running for the playoffs. I was rooting for them too. The Mercury have seemed to ample cap space to add multiple max players to a core highlighted by all-star wing Khalil Cooper. Ahead of hosting, of course, the 2024 All-Star Games, Phoenix strategically completed a new standalone practice facility, giving All-Stars, including Thomas, a chance to see where they might call home. Those efforts paid off when the Mercury landed commitments for Thomas first and then Sabali the second time. Of course, for those two of the four 2025 All-Star to change teams via free agency. Very, very exciting. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of money that goes down to these trades too. There's a lot of things when it comes down to these trades. I think the WNBA is going to be very, very revolutionary when it comes down to their season. They're getting a lot of great attention too. Have you seen the stud buds? That's changing the game in WNBA. Real quick, if you guys know what a stud bud is, it's kind of I like to say for our stud muffins, but we don't gentrify on this show. But the stud bud is kind of like a fade out, kind of what I kind of have on some of the hairstyles, or you can grow it out. And the WNBA players are rocking the stud buds, and I think, honestly, from an athletic standpoint, the stud buds are very, very impactful simply because it works. I think it works. I think it really works when it comes down to not having so much hair on your head. A lot of WNBA players, they have a whole lot of hair. They even put it up in a ponytail. There's a lot of things going on when it comes down to that. And it gets messy. It's sweaty. It's heavy, right? A lot of people ask me, again, I'm a male, but people ask me, why do I keep having my hair shaved? I don't grow it out, because it's a lot of weight. When it comes down to hair, it's a lot of sweat. It's a lot of aggravating things that's on your head when you can just shave it, clean shave, and you ain't got to really worry too much about it. And that's what I think the stud bud is very impactful for WNBA, because they're rocking the low haircut, right? And then they're not able to have so much weight while they're playing their game. So I love it. I'm here for it. Some of them fades look better than mine. So I laugh when it comes down to it. But shout out to the Phoenix Mercury. Shout out to the Final Four as we get ready for the playoff season. I'm going to be coming back so I can talk more about football for NFL season. But first, we got more conversations coming down to it. Take it away, guys.
Back in November of 2015, when his Clemson program was still barreling toward a national title, it would win 2 of them, Dabo Swinney spoke about the life cycle of a business. You've got the birth, you've got the growth, you've got plateau, you've got decline, and you've got death, Swinney said. Those great businesses out there, those great programs, they don't plateau. So how do you do that? He continued. You have to constantly reinvent, reinvest, reset, learn, grow. You change. You have to do that. You don't just change to change, but you have to always challenge yourself each and every year and make sure, okay, this may be how we've done it, but is it still the right way? The business of college football in 2025 is different from 2015. Direct revenue sharing, nil, and the transfer portal have not just altered the way rosters are assembled, but even how individuals and teams need to be coached. It's like most businesses and industries. Nothing is static. You either enthusiastically welcome that, or, in Swinney's words, you've got death. Mike Gundy is very much alive. He just is no longer employed at Oklahoma State, where over 21 seasons he became the program's all-time winningest coach. He and Swinney have much in common. Both are in their mid to late 50s, Swinney 55, Gundy 58. Both build up underperforming programs through their own force of will, a combination of competitive drive, innovative schemes, and personal charisma. During the 2010s, few were better. They have also been among the most vocal critics and least enthusiastic embracers of a new era of the sport. It shows. Dabo's Tigers, hyped as title contenders in the preseason, are 1-3 with losses to Georgia Tech and Syracuse. Gundy, meanwhile, was fired after a 1-2 start that included a humbling loss to Tulsa. In his final news conference before being dismissed, Gundy bemoaned pretty much everything new. It's like being in an argument with your wife, Gundy said. And you know you're right. It makes zero difference. You're wrong. You might as well just get over it, given, and things are going to be much smoother. It seems that defeatist attitude and begrudging acceptance of new dynamics bled into Gundy's program. Anyone can add a player through the portal. But if you don't accept and understand the portal, if you aren't spending time passionately trying to make it work best for you, are you getting the right player? You can't go in with feet dragging. Swinney is a traditionalist, often for admirable reasons. He wants to be loyal to players he recruited, preferring to believe in and develop them rather than just transfer in a better talent. Times change, though. You can lament it. You can pine for the old days. Or you can adapt so you don't wind up like a typewriter repair shop. Establishment coaches often rail against transfer culture, painting players who jump around as disloyal or running from a challenge. That might be the case for some, but for many others, the portal is a chance to prove their worth by working up the ladder from smaller to bigger programs. Big programs recruit based on sophomore and junior years of high school. A lot of guys fall through those cracks. Maybe they hail from small towns or hadn't hit growth spurts, or their parents couldn't afford throwing coaches and nutritionists. Maybe they didn't get invited to the Elite 11. Yet, once in college, they worked and improved, generally at smaller programs without the fanciest of locker rooms or some unearned sense of greatness based on tradition. Others might have failed at their first school or got spurned by a previous coach. Now, on their last chance, they are fighting the way they always should have. As with old school recruiting, coaches who love the portal are probably going to get the best of those players over coaches who just tolerate the portal. Diamonds are everywhere. Syracuse and Georgia Tech didn't have more talent, and certainly not higher-ranked recruits when they beat Clemson. Same with Tulsa and OSU. They didn't have better facilities or higher-paid assistants, but they might have had what Dabo and Gundy used to exude in excess, an intense drive to win. High school recruiting rankings don't matter to the scoreboard. Gundy couldn't make it work in the new era. Can extremely talented Swinney? A lot of coaches can't. It's not an age thing, though. Indiana's Kurt Signetti is 64 and thriving. It's an attitude thing. It's about fervently attacking new possibilities. Reinvent, reinvest, reset, learn, grow. It can't be like holding your tongue in a fight with your spouse. Mike Gundy already tried that approach. The Week 4 NFL schedule for the 2025 season brings some exciting matchups. Rookie QB Jackson Dart will make his debut against the surging Chargers. Packers edge rusher Micah Parsons makes his highly anticipated return to Dallas. And the Ravens and Chiefs, two of the league's most unlikely 1-2 teams, will face off in an AFC showdown. We have you covered with everything you need to know. Our NFL Nation reporters take you inside the locker room with the best thing they heard this week, and ESPN research provides a key stat to know and a betting nugget for each contest. Plus, analytics writer Seth Walder makes a bold prediction for each matchup, and fantasy analyst Eric Moody shares fantasy football intel. We also have Football Power Index, FPI, matchup quality ratings out 100, and game projections, and three analysts, Pamela Maldonado, Moody, and Walder, give us final score picks for every game. Let's get into full Week 4 slate, which culminates with two Monday Night Football matchups. One between the Jets and Dolphins on ESPN, and one between the Bengals and Broncos. Game times are Sunday unless otherwise noted. What we're hearing on the Steelers: Pittsburgh's defense has allowed a league-high 32 plays of at least 20 passing yards or 12 rushing yards this season. The Vikings enter Sunday's matchup with just 8 plays of 20 yards or more, but they return a major target in W.R. Jordan Addison, who served a 3-game suspension. Pittsburgh, though, could also get help in the secondary with the potential return of S. Deshaun Elliott knee and CB Joey Porter Jr. hamstring, who both haven't played since Week 1. Brooke Pryor. What we're hearing on the Vikings had a chance to sign QB Aaron Rodgers, who instead joined the Steelers after the Vikings committed to giving J.J. McCarthy first-team snaps throughout the spring and summer. McCarthy will miss his second consecutive game because of a sprained ankle, and Carson Wentz will start. The question the Vikings asked themselves this offseason was if they would be better with McCarthy on a rookie contract and a backup like Wentz, whose cap number is $1.2 million this season, or Rodgers at $14.2 million. Sunday's game will be a litmus test for that question. Bold prediction: Vikings LB Andrew Van Ginkel will record a pick 6. How could I not pick this? Van Ginkel is the king of jumping horizontal passes and taking them to the house, and no one loves a screen pass more than Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. It's a match made in defensive touchdown paradise. Fantasy nugget: Vikings TJ. Hawkinson struggled early in the season, but exploded in Week 3 with 15.9 fantasy points. He tied for the team lead in receptions 5 and finished second in targets 6 and yards 49. Despite splitting time with Josh Oliver and Ben Urosek, Hawkinson has played more snaps and routes, keeping him a fantasy starter, especially with a favorable matchup against the Pittsburgh defense that gives up the second most points to tight ends. See Week 4 rankings. What we're hearing on the Eagles: the Eagles are 1-3 in Tampa Bay under coach Nick Sirianni and have not been their best in the Florida heat. They flew out Friday, a day early, to get acclimated to the weather. It's supposed to be 90 degrees with 68% humidity on Sunday, but not everyone is convinced the approach will pay dividends. You don't practice in heat one day and say you're acclimated, or take a pill and say you're acclimated. Defensive coordinator Vic Fangio said, "The key will be, it's a mindset. No. 1, no. 2, we need to not let them have 8-, 10-, 12-play drives on us." What we're hearing on the Buccaneers: Bucs coach Todd Bowles was asked about being a hero to the people of Philadelphia because he has come out in support of the tush push. The Elizabeth, New Jersey native and Temple grad who spent 1 season as an assistant in Philly joked, "I think the only place I might be a hero at is Ishkabibbles down on South Street, getting the cheesesteak. Other than that, it's a good play. It's a creative play for them, and we've got to get better as defensive coaches trying to be creative to stop it." Bold prediction: Philadelphia will record a positive pass rate over expectation per NFL Next Gen stats for the first time this season. Tampa Bay ranks first in EPA allowed per opponent design run. So the Eagles are going to have to rely on Hurts dropbacks, perhaps even more than they did last week. The good news for the Eagles: they can win that way, too. Fantasy nugget: Emeka Egbuka takes over as the Buccaneers know. 1 WR with Mike Evans sidelined for multiple weeks, hamstring. He has racked up 21 targets and 51 fantasy points through 3 games and will be busy against the Eagles secondary. See Week 4 rankings. What we're hearing on the Browns: Cleveland's defense has a claim as the league's best, allowing the fewest yards in the NFL per game, 2 under 4.3. However, the Lions' offense, which ranks second in scoring and first in EPA per play, will be Cleveland's biggest test to date. The Browns will be on alert for everything, from Detroit's use of motion and trick plays to its fourth down aggressiveness. Runs, play action, screens, they're probably the leader in the NFL when it comes combining all three of those things on first and second down. Defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz said, "We'll have to take away what they do best. Every play is going to be a battle." What we're hearing on the Lions, after their first win at Baltimore as an organization, the Lions are looking to avoid a trap game against the Browns. Detroit has a league-leading 11 red zone touchdowns this season, while its defense sacked Ravens QB Lamar Jackson 7 times. The Lions hope to continue that output on Sunday. I can understand emotions being high, but ultimately every game in the NFL takes a certain amount of focus and a certain amount of drive and willingness, edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson said. And it's like if you don't show up, you're going to get your butt kicked, and we all know that. Stat to know, Lions WR Monterey ST. Brown has 450 receptions in 69 games since entering league in 2021, most in the NFL over span. Since the AFL/NFL merger in 1970, only 2 players have more receptions in their first 70 career games. Michael Thomas with 510 2016-20, and Justin Jefferson with 451 2020-24. Fantasy nugget. The Browns' defensive front is not to be trifled with and currently leads the league in run-stop win rate. The Lions had a ton of success running the ball in Week 3 with Gibbs and Montgomery. However, Detroit will be wise to lean on QB Jared Goff, ST, Brown, and the passing game against the Browns. What we're hearing on the Chargers LB Diane Henley said the defense is taking Sunday's matchup against rookie QB Jackson Dart as a challenge. This is going to be a guy that's trying to prove something. And so, for us, we have to also prove how tough of a defense we are to face, Henley said. So for us, he's going to get our best, and I'm sure we're going to get his. The Chargers are currently allowing the 9th lowest passing yards per game on defense, 182.0. What we're hearing on the Giants made the QB switch from Russell Wilson to Dart this week, even though they're set to face a tough Chargers defense. But the hope is that the rookie adds some new elements to the offense and finally gets the team in the win column. I think the biggest thing for me is I want to do my best to be a spark. Dart said, "I want to create excitement on the field. I want to be explosive when opportunities are there. Try to just bring a little bit of swagger." Bold prediction. Chargers CB Dante Jackson will record an interception. Jackson has the lowest yards allowed per coverage snap, 0.2, among all outside corners with at least 75 coverage snaps this season, per NFL Next Gen stats, and is doing it without a low target rate, 13%. Facing Dart in his debut, the chances of a pick are higher. Fantasy nugget. Chargers RB Amarian Hampton is set up for significant touches in the backfield with Najee Harris out for the season after suffering an Achilles injury in Week 3. Hampton finished with 25 touches and 24.9 fantasy points last week and could replicate that production against a Giants defense that has allowed the 4th most fantasy points per game to running backs. What we're hearing on the Saints. Saints coach Kellen Moore expresses confidence in starting QB Spencer Rattler following the loss to the Seahawks. Moore indicated the Saints wouldn't be following the Giants' lead and switching quarterbacks anytime soon, and said Rattler realizes how much confidence the team has in him. He thinks Rattler, who is 0-9 as a starter dating back to last season, is headed in the right direction. It's frustrating because Spencer hasn't been able to get a win in this league, and he's earned it and he deserves it. He's done so much good, Moore said. What we're hearing on the Bills. Despite sitting on the largest point spread of the season, per ESPN BET, the emphasis on the Bills is that they are treating Sunday's game like any other. QB Josh Allen said he expects the Saints to have their ears pinned back. They want to win as badly as anybody in the league right now. And again, there's no easy games in this league. The Bills have a 13-game home winning streak in the regular season, but could be without 3 starters, DT Ed Oliver, LB Matt Milano, and RT Spencer Brown, due to injuries. What we're hearing on the Commanders, with a banged-up offense missing multiple starters, perhaps as many as 5 on Sunday, Washington's defense needs to take the lead. And that means stopping Falcons' R.B. Bijan Robinson at all costs. Washington ranks 12th in rushing yards allowed per game, 100.7, and 8th in yards per carry, 3.7, after investing in bigger linemen and more depth up front. But stopping Robinson will prove challenging. I see no weaknesses for the guy, defensive coordinator Joe Wood Jr. said. He can do it all. Run inside, outside, can catch. He does it all very, very well. What we're hearing on the Falcons, is this a must-win game for Falcons? Maybe not since it's only week 4, but it is a must-look competent game for them. Specifically, their offense needs to step up after last week's 30-0 drubbing at the hands of the Panthers. Coach Raheem Morris is not too worried about Atlanta showing up this week. He said that due to human nature, there's more urgency after any loss, and particularly a loss like that. What we're hearing on the Panthers TE Tommy Tremble referred to the height rookie WR Tedero McMillan reached for a 4-yard catch from QB Bryce Young against Atlanta as Mario jumping, to which McMillan insisted this isn't Mario ball. Sunday's game won't be either. It'll be one in the trenches, where it'll be strength against strength, as Carolina will want to run against a New England defense that's allowing only 60.3 rushing yards per game. What we're hearing on the Patriots coach Mike Vrabel said he spent 2 hours Tuesday night studying the Panthers' kickoff coverage, which includes knuckleball kicks from Ryan Fitzgerald. They've proved challenging for opposing returners to handle. It's impressive. He kicks a good kick, a dirty kick. He's had the returners sometimes confused, said Vrabel, who believes Patriot returners Travion Henderson and Antonio Gibson have the skill set to decide games. But the New England kick return unit was outplayed in its Week 3 loss. What we're hearing on the Titans, the Texans' defense is allowing 17.0 points per game, tied for the 5th best average in the league. Houston's pass rush has also generated 9 sacks, tied for 4th best in the NFL, which presents a tough challenge for a Titans offense that has scored only 17.0 points per game and has allowed a league-worst 15 sacks. The Titans hope new play caller Bo Hardigree can have an impact similar to when he took over as the interim offensive coordinator for the Raiders in 2023 and help boost Las Vegas' average points per game by 7. What we're hearing on the Texans, expect some extra juice between Texans WR Nico Collins and Titans CB Jarius Sneed. Sneed, when asked about Collins earlier this week, said who in a dismissive way. When Collins was asked about Sneed's comments, he said, "He knows who I am." As the Texans try to get their last-ranked scoring offense going, expect Collins to do everything in his power to get the unit some juice.
We made it to the final weekend of the 2025 MLB regular season. It has been one wild, fun ride, especially if you're a fan of the Milwaukee Brewers or Seattle Mariners or Cleveland Guardians. Less so, especially recently, if you're a fan of the Detroit Tigers or New York Mets. What's at stake this weekend? From teams playing out the string to those who are battling for a chance to play October baseball, here are the biggest storylines to follow over the next 3 days. Battle for the AL Central, miracle comeback, or all-time collapse. The American League Central was over, except it wasn't. The Detroit Tigers finally snapped their 8-game losing streak with a 4-2 win over the Cleveland Guardians on Thursday. But the Guardians have still won 17 of their last 20 games, while the Tigers have lost 11 of 13. The teams are now tied for the division lead heading into the final weekend, and Cleveland holds the tiebreaker, having won the season series, putting the Guardians on the verge of the biggest September comeback in MLB history to win a pennant or division. Currently, 8.5 games when the 1964 Cardinals chased down the Phillies. Check out this timeline of the AL Central standings and odds for the Tigers and Guardians to win the division via Fangraphs. July 8, Cleveland 15.5 games back of Detroit. Tigers 98.8%, Guardians 0.1%. August 25th, 12.5 games back, 99.9%, 0.0%. September 1st, 10.5 games back, 0.2%. September 10th, 9.5 games back, 99.9%, 0.1%. September 17th, 4.5 games back, 95.4%. September 20th, 1 game back, 62.3%, 37.7%. September 24, Cleveland up 1 game, 18.8%, 81.2%. 25th, tied for division lead, 34.1%, 65.9%. The Guardians now lead the division by that tiebreaker heading into the final weekend after just winning 2 out of 3 games against the Tigers. The Guardians host the Rangers while the Tigers are on the road in Boston. And since the Red Sox have yet to clinch a wild card, that Detroit-Boston series will have a definite playoff feel to it. But maybe the Tigers can win the final wild card? The Tigers do at least have a fallback option. They're 1 game ahead of the Houston Astros, who snapped a 5-game losing streak with a win on Thursday, and just 1 game behind the Red Sox. Detroit owns the tiebreaker over Houston, so the Astros will have to finish with a better record to claim the final wild card and avoid missing their first postseason since 2016. The Astros finish in Anaheim, but will be without their top 2 pitchers in Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez, who started the final 2 games of the series against the Athletics. One important note for the Tigers: Tarek Skubal last started on Tuesday, so he would be ready to go on 4 days of rest Sunday if needed. If the Tigers have already clinched the wild card or division title by then, look for them to skip Skubal and have him ready to start Game 1 of the wild card series on Tuesday. To make matters even more confusing, the Red Sox, Guardians, Tigers, and Astros could all finish 88-74, which is the scenario if the Tigers take 2 of 3 against the Red Sox, the Guardians win 2 of 3 against Texas, and the Astros sweep the Angels. If that happens, the Astros are out, having lost the season series against all 3 teams and owning the worst winning percentage against the other 3 clubs. Who wins the final National League wildcard? On September 1st, the Mets had a 94.5% chance of making the playoffs via Fangraphs. But after going 11-17 in August, they've gone 9-13 in September. Their collapse might not be as disastrous as Detroit's, but the Tigers also don't possess a $340 million payroll. The Mets' second-half woes have allowed the Cincinnati Reds and Arizona Diamondbacks to stay alive, and the Reds are only 12-10 in September, having just lost 2 to the Pirates. The Diamondbacks, meanwhile, were 7 games under at the trade deadline when they dealt away Eugenio Suarez, Josh Naylor, Merrill Kelly, and Shelby Miller, essentially punting on the season. The Mets beat the Cubs on Thursday, and the Reds beat the Pirates thanks to Noelvi Marte's home run robbery in the 9th to preserve the 2-1 victory. So the Mets head into Friday at 82-77, the Reds at 81-78, and the Diamondbacks at 80-79. The schedule and probable starters for each team: Mets at Miami Marlins, Brandon Sproat, Clay Holmes, Sean Manaea, David Peterson. The Mets haven't officially announced their Saturday and Sunday starters, although Holmes and Manaea have been tag-teaming starts lately, while Peterson would be in line to pitch Sunday, although he has hit a wall and has a 12.54 ERA over his past 5 starts. The Marlins push Sandy Alcantara back a day to start Friday's series opener. Reds at Milwaukee Brewers, Zach Littell, Andrew Abbott, Brady Singer. Hunter Green started on Wednesday, so he's in line to start the first game of the playoffs if the Reds make it. Quinn Priester is scheduled to start for the Brewers on Friday, and get this, they've won 17 consecutive games he has started. Diamondbacks at San Diego Padres, Zach Gallen, Eduardo Rodriguez, Brandon Pfaadt. Gallen had a rocky first 4 months, but is 6-2 with a 2.82 ERA since the beginning of August. How all-in the Padres are will be determined by whether the NL West is still up for grabs. Finally, there's a good chance the tiebreaker comes into play, something the Diamondbacks are familiar with after tying with the Mets and Atlanta Braves last season for the final 2 wildcard spots, only to be eliminated via the tiebreaker rule. This year's scenarios: Reds over Mets, 1 season series 4-2. Reds over Diamondbacks, 1 season series 4-2. Mets Diamondbacks, to be determined. They split the season series, and the second tiebreaker is intra-division record, with the Mets currently 24-24 and the Diamondbacks 25-23. The third tiebreaker is intra-league record, and the Mets are 58-53, and the Diamondbacks 55-56. Who wins the AL East? The Toronto Blue Jays were 5 games up on September 16th, but have gone 2-6, while the New York Yankees have gone 6-1. So now, the two teams are tied. Toronto does own the tiebreaker, having won the season series 8-5. The Yankees host the Baltimore Orioles to finish up, while the Blue Jays host the Tampa Bay Rays. Scheduled starters: Blue Jays, Shane Bieber, Trey Yesavage, Kevin Gausman. Yankees, undecided, Can Schlittler. Lewis Gill. The Yankees started Max Fried on Wednesday and Carlos Rodon on Thursday, with an eye to run them in the first 2 games of a wild card series, so they're out of the picture this weekend. Will Warren is the likely starter Friday. The interesting name here is Yesavage, who has made just 2 career starts, allowing 5 runs in 9 innings, after a recent call-up from the minors, where he posted a 3.12 ERA with an incredible 160 strikeouts in just 98 innings. The Blue Jays have already moved Jose Barrios to the bullpen, so it's possible that Yesavage is part of the postseason rotation alongside Gausman and Bieber, with Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett the other possibilities. The other factor in play: if Gausman, who has been Toronto's top starter in the second half with a 2.49 ERA, is needed Sunday to secure the division title, that would leave him out of the wild card series if the Blue Jays end up finishing second in the division. The AL's top seed remains in play, with the red-hot Seattle Mariners a game behind the Yankees and Blue Jays. The Mariners do lose the tiebreaker to both teams, so they would have to finish with the better record to secure the number 1 seed. The Mariners host the Los Angeles Dodgers to finish the season.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our next segment for Broco Podcast, ATL, I Heard Media presented, of course, with K.L.P Entertainment Filmworks. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you guys enjoyed the show so far. When it comes down to it, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially on week 4 of the NFL season, and it's been a rocking good season. I gotta say, honestly, I'm glad that there's quite a few of my favorite teams. I know, shout out to the Bills. They're officially 3-0 for right now when it comes down to the latest. So week 4, let's talk about it real quick. Of course, the finals for the Seahawks and Cardinals yesterday. Seahawks had a score of 23-20. Very, very good when it comes down to it. Now, I wanted to highlight the teams that I'm rooting for. And I know I can only give a take for what I see. You know, when it comes down to football season, almost every Sunday I try to catch the game. I did catch the games last Sunday, but again, during the sickness, the minor cold that I've had. Of course, you have the Giants and the Chargers. I used to be a Giants fan, but now I'm just not really rocking with the Giants because they're just not having a great season. I think the head coach there will be fired soon because I just don't think that they're going to be very, very impactful. Commanders and Falcons. Let me tell you something, Falcons. I said it at the beginning of the show. Y'all better do something. Look, I harp on it because we're here in Atlanta. And I got a lot of friends and family members that try to root for the Falcons. I watch a lot of TikTok videos of people who are fans of the Falcons. And every time I watch a TikTok, there's an angry, pissed off Falcons fan, right? I do think, and they switched out Michael Penix Jr. for Kirk Cousins. If you got to do a switch out like that, that's very, very tough. And Penix Jr., he's one of the newer quarterbacks that got recruited for the Falcons, and he ain't doing so good. And Koo, we don't know where Koo at. Koo gone, right? I want to root for the Falcons because our home base is here in Atlanta. I do think they're going to be a hiring event for a new coach for the Atlanta Falcons. I want to root for Raheem Morris because he's for the people, right? But I just don't think he's a great head coach. He's last season wasn't great. This season's not going great, right? I do believe that there's going to be a lot of in this business too, guys. When it comes down to head coaches, if your team is not having a great 3 seasons, you might get replaced. You might say, okay, Arthur Blank might say, okay, we need somebody else in here because we got to not have such a crappy record, you know. But moving on, of course, you got the Eagles and the Buccaneers. Shout out to my pops. He's a big Buccaneers fan. I can't wait to see what they do. I do like the Eagles more than I do the Buccaneers because I do like Saquon Barkley in his matchup when he plays his game. Very, very excited when it comes down to the Eagles. Of course, they won Super Bowl. This previous Super Bowl, so it's very interesting to say for the Eagles. Of course, you got the Texans and the Titans. I shout out to the Texans because my barber, he's a big Texans guy, and when I had my haircut last, and they lost their game against the LA Rams. I teased Byron. I said, hey, your Texans ain't doing so good. They're not having a great season so far. Then you have the Panthers versus the Patriots. Of course, the Panthers destroyed the Atlanta Falcons their last game. So very, very excited for that. Bills and the Saints. Obviously, if you guys know, you know I am a huge Bills fan. I am a big Josh Allen fan. Bills all the way. Hopefully they go 4-0. Very, very exciting. They're going against the Saints. Saints, that is our Atlanta competition, New Orleans and Atlanta. Of course, you've got the Detroit Lions versus the Browns. And then you have the Rams versus the Colts. I'm going to talk about the Colts real quick because I'm going to talk about Daniel Jones. And you've got the Bengals and the Broncos. And then the Jets and the Dolphins. Dolphins is not, well, Jets ain't doing pretty good either. And I'm sad to say that the Jets ain't doing good because Jets are my other favorite teams that I try to root for. But they're not having a great season. Of course, they're just not having a bang-up season. Justin Fields, I don't think he's just having a great season when it comes down to the Jets. Dolphins, right? I've got a lot of friends who are the friends of the Dolphins. Very, very sad to see. Oh, and we also got Ravens and Chiefs. Now, I'm starting to grow on the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, I'm starting to grow on Lamar Jackson, right? And Derrick Henry. I'm starting to grow on them because they gave us a good match with the Bills, their first go round, right? There's a lot of great moves. And then you got the Chiefs, right? Everybody knows about the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. I love to see that. I can't wait to see, because every time I'm watching, if there's a Chiefs game, and I see it on TikTok, I always laugh at Chris Collinsworth's commentating. Because he'd be like, oh, here's a guy that does his Patrick Mahomes every time. I like his line. Now, you got a guy, or here's a guy. It's the funniest thing. There's this one TikToker that mimics Chris Collinsworth's commentating so well. But I said that I was going to talk about, of course, the Colts. The Rams and the Colts, they're going to have their matchup on Sunday. And I wanted to talk about it real quick because I mentioned that I used to be a New York Giants fan. And I used to give Daniel Jones so much crap when he was one of the head quarterback. He was the head quarterback for the New York Giants last season and seasons before that. But I've seen some of Daniel Jones's plays when he now plays for the Colts. And I just got to say, I might have been semi-wrong about Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones have started with an excellent start of his first season with the Indiana Colts. Now, I am a big fan of the Indiana Colts, the Pacers, and the Fever, right? I'm a big Pat McAfee guy too, so yeah, I guess you can kind of see that now. Indianapolis Colts are now 3-0. And Jones is the league leader for the total QBR of 85.8. That's pretty impressive. We didn't see that when he was with the Giants, right? If you guys know, I used to crap on Daniel Jones a whole heck of a lot with the Giants because he would just make me mad, because when the Giants recruited him as a quarterback, they gave him a lot of money to be the quarterback for the Giants. And I'm always going to be a tough critic when they call in quarterbacks for the amount of money that they're getting paid. And if the money and the performance doesn't reflect on their, if their performance doesn't reflect on the money, the lot of millions of money that they're getting per contract, then that's where I get upset. He's the only player in the past 90 years with at least 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns, and no turnovers. And Jones is completing a 71.6% of his throws and 816 pass within 816 pass yards. I gotta say, I'm blown away. I am. I think Daniel Jones found a team that, and I'm learning as I'm coming up as a football fan. You know, I wasn't always a football fan. I can't say I was a football fan of NFL fan when I was a kid. I just didn't understand it when I was a kid. But now as I get older and I'm watching the games, I get more intrigued with it. I do think that it's the player is as good if they are communicating well with their team and they have a great relationship within their team. And I see that in Daniel Jones. Now that he's with the Indiana Colts, I see that he's doing some great strides and he has a great relationship within his team. Right? I've seen some of the great plays that he's made for Indiana Colts. And maybe, just maybe, I might have judged Daniel Jones a little bit too soon instead of me seeing what he could really do. Right? And I think it's the team is what makes Daniel Jones great with that stat I just read. It's very, very good to see that he's doing his thing because he did get benched. He did get released from the Giants, obviously, because they didn't have a great season with him being one of the head quarterbacks. But I'm very, very excited to see that he's playing one of most of his best games that I've seen, right? He's completed within that. He's also completed 92.9 on passes, on design rollouts, averaging 11.7 yards per attempt. And that was against the Titans in week 3. Daniel Jones also within that same game with the Titans, he went 7 for 7 on a career high of 98 passes yards on design rollouts. Again, those are great stats to have. Now that he's with a new team. I'm very impressed with Daniel Jones. I can't wait to see what he does next within the Indiana Colts. Shout out to Indiana. Have I drove past Indiana when I was in Chicago? Yes. I'm starting to grow on the Colts a little bit. You know, I'm still not. I'm rooting for the teams I'm rooting for this season, right? Because I've got a football fantasy when it comes down to it. But it might change. I am a fan of the Pacers, right? I saw Tyrese Halliburton at WWE's event. Very pissed off that he tore his Achilles at the finals against the Thunders, but still big fan of the Fevers, right? You know, Indiana got some players now. They got some good stuff when it comes down to it. So that's how we do it. I love it. I really, really do love it. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our episode here today, Bro Code Podcast. We hope that you guys enjoyed. Again, thanks to Tyler, Marcus, T, Jackson, and Coleman for their stories today on this episode, Friday's episode, long episode. We hope that you guys enjoyed this episode and stay tuned because we're going to be coming back with more podcasts within the next few days. Obviously, officially back. Thank you for the audience again. Officially back from McCold, doing my thing as a sports analyst, doing my thing as a podcaster and broadcaster, and we love every single one of you guys that tune into our show. We really appreciate it, and we love you guys for that. Until then, we'll see you guys in the next episode of Bro Code Podcast ATL, presented by iHeartMedia. We say so long, stay safe, peace.